MashaAllah. Okay. I like the way like-minded, but we'll talk about it in a minute, what like-minded means. Okay. So yeah, I think between all of you, I think you've managed to get the definition almost right. I think it's a group of people or group of individuals who are working together to achieve a shared goal. It's very important to focus on a shared goal. This is not an individual goal, it's a shared goal. And they have some authority to manage their own work and internal processes, and they are dependent on each other to achieve the goal, meaning that no one individual alone can achieve that goal. So that is very important to start with, just so we know what a team is. Once I did this exercise, one lady said, oh, a team is just a group of people. I said, okay, so we are now a group of people. Are we a team? And she starts laughing, said, I didn't finish the sentence. Okay, here it is a question for you. So what really happens in your team meetings? So imagine that an intelligent and wise alien watched a film of one of your team meetings. What conclusions would they draw from seeing your team interact together? Okay, so imagine that an intelligent and wise alien watched a film of one of your team meetings. What conclusions would they draw from seeing your team interact together? Anyone wants to comment? No? Okay, I know it's
Sorry, can you repeat, please?
yeah, can you see my screen? Can you see my screen first? Because I'm just reading from the screen. Suppose an intelligent.
Yes, I got it now. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So suppose an intelligent and wise alien watched a film of one of your team meetings. What conclusions would they draw from seeing your team interact together? Okay, you don't need to tell me, but write it down, like yesterday, and it might help you in the future when you look at it. I said, okay, but this is not what I want it to be, and then maybe you can change it. Obviously, we have a large group, and not everyone is willing to share things, but in the smaller groups, when I do it face-to-face, I get a lot of funny stories, okay? One guy said, and this is an organization probably with about $20 million turnover. He said, every meeting is the same minutes. We keep discussing and discussing all the meetings. There's the same points again and again because we don't come to a conclusion. Okay, so another question for you.
I think when we see them interact, we will feel that it's really positive environment. Yeah. Maybe would like to be one of those teams.
Yeah, good. Inshallah. Okay. So another question. When people work together to finish a job, such as a building house, the job will probably get finished faster, take longer to finish, or not get done. Abu Omar, because I don't see in my screen currently, I cannot see the chats. So if there is anything coming, let me know. Okay, I can see them now. Yeah, okay. Okay, A, the same people say, get finished faster. Yeah. Shabuddin, you want to say something?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It will get finished faster.
It will get finished faster. Okay, and somebody said it depends. Okay, said it depends. Probably it's three of them. Okay. Honestly, what do you?
Okay.
Dr. Khair, fadal.
Okay, I just want to say it depends on the level of understanding between the team members. How organized they are.
Yeah.
What are the rules that guide them? So there are many factors that affect their. So that to build the house, it may take longer, or it may not get built at all, or it will get built faster. Yeah. It depends on the dynamics of the group.
Okay, mashallah, very good. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, and what do you see here? Okay, it's a task that cannot be done alone by one person. A team is required to carry each other because they depend on each other. Okay, so teamwork has to be in a way that they depend on each other and no one can achieve the goal on their own. And here, like Dr. Khiar says, independence, maybe it never gets finished when there is poor planning, poor coordination, and they meet halfway here, the railway, and then they find out actually they've just used the wrong lanes. Okay, so why do we work in teams? We work in teams to enable our organizations to develop and deliver products, services in a speedy and cost-effective manner. These are things that one person cannot do. They are best way to endorse organizational strategy. Like you might have, if your organization, you might have the CEO or the managing director and then have a group of direct reports and so on. It enables organizations to learn more effectively and retain this learning for long periods of time. Teams also can promote creativity and innovation. And they said, satisfy our basic human need to belong to a social group. Okay, I know with COVID now, everybody working from home or many people working from home might not be ideal world, but that is what team work is. There's something called, and I think this is going back maybe to Hamdani or someone who said like-minded people. The problem with like-minded people sometimes is that you can have low-quality group decisions because they are all the same. They think the same, okay? They come from the same background, they have similar personalities and so on. When that happens, there's something called groupthink happens, okay? And that produces low-quality group decisions due to biased information process in the direction of a popular view, okay? They're all similar, they come from the same background and other things. That's why sometimes diversity is important in teams. There's one illusion of invulnerability, okay? The team, because they think the same way, they think they've got the answer, they're overconfident. Okay, and sometimes they even are willing to take high risks because of the same thinking. There is some level of pressure if you belong to the same group, same type of people, that you want to conform to the norm, to whatever is known in that group. Okay, and you want some sort of cohesion and artificial harmony. You don't want to rock the boat. And obviously, the group can blindly follow the leader. And sometimes the sense of urgency is used to always have similar approach for the problems and decision making. So like-minded people, as much as good for cohesion, it might not be necessarily good for decision making. Diversity of thinking, diversity of background, and diversity of many other aspects is important in a group for them to work effectively. So the way we can prevent reduce groupthink is one, the leader needs to act as impartial coordinator. The leader should not be seen as part of one group within the group or subgroup, but as an impartial coordinator where it takes, or he or she takes all the views and opinions and creates discussion. We'll come later on to the 5 dysfunctions of a team and see how we can do it. Make sure that he or she strengthens the self-confident minority members. Sometimes in a group, you have minority that might not belong to this bigger group in different ways. It could be their personality types. As an example, introverts are usually quiet people, okay? Give them more confidence. Take into account views of external experts if necessary, depending how complex the issue is. Maybe you want to bring in somebody who is not part of the team. Implement some constructive conflicts, okay? Be the devil's advocate. I will come to that when we talked about in the last session, the 5 dysfunctions of a team, about conflicts. It needs to facilitate individual responsibility for decision process and outcome. And this is important, that everyone is responsible for the final outcome. They cannot say, okay, because everybody thought that way, so I said, okay, even though I had a different idea. Okay? So that is very, very important. There's a question says, is there an ideal team? We'll come to it, inshallah. Sorry. Okay? Creates different subgroups, each engaging in same decision-making task. Okay? Instead of, if you have a big group especially, create 2 groups, 3 groups, okay, and let them do the same task so that he can see if there would be a difference of opinions in terms of the decisions they come through, they bring through. And that's very, very important. And even in training, we do it sometimes. I recently did a training on governance, and what I did was I had board members and I had staff. So I separated them. I said, I want one group for staff, one group for board members, and I gave them the same exercise. The results were different. The board thought they were doing well in strategy, in support, in scrutiny, and so on. And the staff felt the board was not doing enough. And obviously you can see why, because all the board members want to be seen to be good. So their view, their outcome was completely different than the views of the thing. So that's important sometimes, splitting the group and asking them to do the same task. We need a lot in training, but you can do it in your thing. And here is a research that shows actually in a group that seeks consensus, that has a group think because they are like-minded, because they think the same way and they don't want to upset each other. The pre and post discussion, the decisions that they made in terms of how correct they are, has not changed significantly. It was only small incremental, like 11, 12% as comparing to 10%. Whereas a group that does not have the normal like-minded people and was willing to take some conflicts and willing to be critical of the decision and of the discussion, the pre-discussion decision, what they would have come out with as individual, was much lower, and the post-discussion was a lot higher. And so the correct decision, most of them, the 65% of the time or more, they got correct decisions because they were critical. They were challenging each other rather than having a group think. So one thing we want to avoid is what's called the group norm. When we form teams, that, okay, like-minded people, they will always think the same way. They will make everybody happy. The quality of the decision is not as good as if you have a dynamic team. So where group norms value consensus and shared identity, this leads to less consideration of alternative perspectives. So if you approach it with consensus, with the same type of people, then there will be less considerations for alternative perspectives. On the other hand, if the group norm promotes independence and critical thinking, and then that will lead to more consideration of alternative perspectives. Okay, it might sound sometimes very tiring because there is a lot of challenge, there's a lot of conflict, but conflict up to a point is acceptable and it should be okay. Right. So the research was done by Aston University here in the UK with about 120,000 people from the NHS. NHS stands for National Health Service. And they asked this question: do you work in a team? If yes, does your team have clear objectives? Do you have to work closely together? And do you meet regularly to review your performance? Okay. So basically, of those who have answered yes, they work in a team, they were asked these three questions. So what happened is that there were different types of answers. Okay. Some said no to all of them. Yes, we work in a team, but we don't have clear objectives. We don't work together. We don't meet regularly to review our performance. That was called pseudo 3. So the type team, they called it pseudo 3. And those who answered yes to one of the three criteria, they called them pseudo 2. And pseudo 1 was if they answered yes to 2 of the criteria. So if they say, yes, we have clear objectives and we work closely, but we don't review regularly, as an example, then they are pseudo 1, or any two combinations of the other three. But if they say yes to all the three criteria, then they call them, these are real team. A real team, I'm not sure, Abdul Rauf, whether we call it an ideal team, because we'll come to the various types of teams, but team roles. But a real team is that a team that has clear objectives, that works together closely, and review their performance by regularly meeting to look at, okay? So this is a spectrum between pseudo 3 to a real team. So in a sense, a real team is a team when team members work closely and interdependently towards clear shared objectives, And real teams have regular and effective communication, usually in the form of team meetings in which they reflect upon their performance and how it could be improved. Whereas a pseudo team, whether it's pseudo 3, 2, or 1, is a group of without clear goals or one which team members do not communicate or do not work interdependently to achieve common goals. In these groups, members are less likely to be satisfied. So the level of satisfaction in pseudo teams is lower comparing to real teams. And that means they are also less likely to be committed and effective. There are likely to be higher error rates and lower effectiveness. So basically, their satisfaction is low and their performance is going to be accordingly low. So, and here is the result they found when they did the research. Individuals who do not work in a team were actually more satisfied than those who work in pseudo teams. So we have 3 pseudo teams here, pseudo 3, 2, 1. Basically, pseudo 3, they do not have any of the 3 criteria, clear objectives, working together and review performance. Pseudo 2 was obviously they said 1 yes to one of them, and pseudo 2 was yes to 2 of them. So people who do not work in a team are much more satisfied, hence their performance is better than any of the pseudo teams that we have here. However, when it comes to real team, the performance is higher and the satisfaction is higher, hence their performance is more effective because they are real teams. They have those 3 criteria, and as you can see, it goes well above the individual members who do not work in a team, from 3.34 to about 3.63 as an average. Okay, question to you. How does the description of pseudo and real teams resonate with your experience? And why do you think it is hard for managers to form real teams? We need some discussions. Can't be quiet. If you work with teams, you have to tell me. Abdurrauf, Abdurrahman Hussein, you said, is there an ideal team? I've told you what I think about real teams and pseudo teams. What do you think?
Pardon?
Yeah, he said, is there an ideal team? So I have given you a description of pseudo teams and real teams. What do you think?
Yes. I don't know, the real teams, for me, some of what we yesterday discussed, especially personal biasness and the emotions affect the real team or the ideal team behavior.
Okay. Good.
So,
Yeah. Okay, good. So anyone who can share with us their experience about pseudo and real teams? Have they come across this type of teams? If you're all managers, you must have set up teams. So I need to know what do you think? Dr. Al-Khiyar. Okay, let's start with Dr. Al-Khiyar. تفضل دكتور خير.
And until Dr. Khiyar comes.
Okay.
Yeah.
تفضل.
It depends on the personality traits of the team members and the ego they carry with them to the team. So if we can to create a team, I think it takes time. Building a team is not an easy job. I think we have to do some personality analysis of the members so that they can come together with understanding. I think that would give you an answer.
Yeah, I want to know your personal experience rather than it depends. It's like consultants. I say only consultants should say it depends.
I have been in many teams, but I don't know, because we are mostly highly educated, so they know they control their emotions, they control their biases. Maybe at lower stage, I don't know how it works.
Okay. And okay, let's get to some of those. Okay, now alhamdulillah, we have a few hands. Let's Walid Ali.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
السلام ورحمة الله.
As personal experiences in the pseudo teams, when you work with some different community members or community leaders, and there is a work that you need to do it together. Each community leader or each individual have their own opinion, and you might have different goals or different ethics you have. So when you sit together, you face a lot of challenges to deal. From my personal experience, I have a lot of things related to this.
Yeah.
When it comes to my team or the place where I'm working at, we have the same goal, so it's easier to form a real team because we have the same goal, we have the same idea, the same opinion. Even though if you have arguments in some points, but the main goal is the same thing. So we have a lot of experiences related to this here in Cairo. So this is my personal experience with different community leaders. You might face challenges, but by the end of the day, it might end to a negative agreement.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next speaker, maybe Muhammad Ibrahim. Why do you think it's hard for managers to form real teams? Muhammad Ibrahim, you raise your hand, so
Assalamu alaikum.
you can share your personal experience, but I
yeah.
want to hear from the participants. Why is it hard for managers to form real teams?
Yeah. Firstly, from my experience, I remember, when we are distributing, food, for refugees, and we were, divided our team to 3, and one of the groups, they finished earlier, and they, instead of helping the others of the groups to finish their, job, they decide to leave the refugees without, taking permission from the manager, and to get us conflict, because if they are real team, suppose when they finish their jobs to help their friend because when they are real team, they're supposed to when you have shortage in somewhere, all the team participate to succeed together, not when you finish your job you leave the area.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. And that's a good point. We have also an answer from Dr. Muhammad Idris, but let's hear from Tosin Ashimi. Tosin? Okay, meanwhile, let's look at Dr. Muhammad Idris saying it is hard to form real team because there are many factors that you don't control, such as team diversity, expertise, and team communication. That's quite interesting. If you're a leader, how can you not have a control of team diversity? How can you not have control of the expertise and setting up communications? I'd like to hear more from you, Dr. Muhammad Idris. You're a leader and you cannot set up a diverse team. You cannot choose those who have experience.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum, Dr. Naser. I think sometimes even as a leader, sometimes you bring a team together, and of course you bring team based on their expertise or the expertise needed for that task. And those who have the expertise not necessarily are diverse in thinking. Maybe they are diverse in their expertise, but they are not diverse in their background. Some of them, they have their personal communication issues. So although leaders, they try to think that they are in control in many things, but sometimes in real life, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And the more diverse the team is, the more issues and conflict but of course the quality, as you mentioned, usually they have the ability to bring different perspective, and the quality of the solution become much better.
Okay, thank you very much. Remember, real team is the one that has clear objectives according to this definition. Okay, they work together, there's some level of dependency, and they review their performance regularly. 3 criteria. Why is it difficult to have these 3 criteria in a team? Diversity is obviously to avoid groupthink and other things, but just these 3 criteria, why do people manage? Okay, let me think what I think. Managers neglect to plan. Managers are always in a hurry. Set it up. You are a team, go and do this is what we want to do without giving clear directions. The first one is clear objectives. The goal is not usually clearly articulated. I can bring 100 teams and I ask all 100 teams and the leader, what is, their leaders, what is your shared goal? And they will get different answers. Because the first thing is that the goal is not clearly communicated. That's why I said clear goal, clear objectives, okay? The second thing is that what are the standards of this meeting, of these teams, okay? How regularly should they meet, okay? What are the dependencies? What are their roles? All these things, when managers set up, they are in a rush. Put the team together, and then inshallah ta'ala, it will work. Sometimes I call it the IBM of the Muslims. You know what's IBM? Some people say international business machines, but that's in America. In the Muslim world, it's inshallah bukra malish. Okay? So, in my personal opinion, is taking time to plan, to clarify the goal, to clarify the roles of the teams and what they are, okay? And even set some standards in terms of how often they should meet and how they should review. Obviously, then the team leader can take it from there. Okay, so that's my personal view and my personal experience. Sometimes large organizations or entire organizations are set up or strategic business units are set up and the goal is not very clear at all for anyone. Okay, and people think, you're just being fussy, it will work out, somehow it will work out. Yes, they eventually perform, but they do not perform to their potential. And people are happy with whatever output or outcome of that team is, instead of looking at if this team worked in the best way possible, okay, if we can untap their potential, what are they able to achieve? Instead, we accept the lowest standard possible because we have failed to plan, we have failed to clarify the goal, we have failed even to train them how to work as a team. Anyone agrees or disagrees with what I've said? Okay, we don't have much comments. Okay, let's see. Abu Omar.
Yeah, there's a comment. There's a comment, useful comment on.
Okay, where is it? I can't see it. Okay, Abdurrauf, from the very beginning, every manager is not free from personal biases and lack ability to have overall understanding situations and existing facts. That's a good point. So the manager, he or herself, have their own biases and obviously, and they have lack of experience and understanding the situation. Brilliant. Okay. Any other comments? Feel free to, by the way, to disagree with what I said. I mean, I'm not saying what is Quran. I'm saying from personal experience. You might have different experience.
Yeah. Also, the point Dr. Khiyar mentioned that it takes time to build a team. So normally, what we have is people come, quit their job, or they move to other positions. So there is continuously there is a change, and this is maybe a dilemma and an obstacle for people to create a real team to reach the performance stage.
Good, yeah. So good comment also from Dr. Khiyar. If managers are failing to set up to set up real teams, then we need to train them how to build teams. Okay, very good, inshallah. Any other comments or suggestions? Okay, great. Abu Omar, we are on the 45 minutes.
Okay.
Thing. Should we take a break, because then we have a different session later on?
Just I have one issue.
Yeah, Abdurrahman, Bismillah, تفضل.
Bismillah. Just as you said, after we just finished everything, just set our objective, goals, everything, just make clear, this show the way from here we start and from to here we are going to end up. But in this case, in this process, how can we handle deviants who deviate from your set objective or goal, whatever?
Okay, how do you handle deviation? Okay, there are two things. Now, the deviation might be that you have come across issues or challenges that you did not anticipate.
Yeah.
Now, usually this can happen. It happens for two reasons. One, for bad planning, poor planning. Basically, nobody sat down to say, okay, what are the challenges that we anticipate? What can go wrong? And put something in place. Sometimes you're working in very complex environments, especially those who work in conflict zones and other things. Every day is different, okay? What happens in the morning is different what happens in the afternoon. In these cases, okay, the team gets together with the manager or whoever set up, the sponsor who set up that team, to say, look, here is our original goal, but here are new factors that we have come across, or some assumptions we made are not true anymore. As a result, we want to discuss to review the goal, and there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, and that might be a learning experience to say, okay, actually, what we thought we will achieve is not achievable due to 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's renegotiate. And what parts of the goal or the objectives needs to be reviewed. There is nothing wrong with it, but it has to be done in a very systematic way. Not somebody wakes up next morning and say, actually, our goal has changed. Because that will frustrate the team as well, because this has not been discussed. Okay, Abdurrauf, is that okay? Have I answered your question?
Yeah, so I'm okay. I'm okay with that.
Okay, good. And we have Brother Bilal saying there is always a question of leadership and management that comes about when we discuss what a team needs to operate effectively. I believe that the best managers may not necessarily be best leaders when working with a team. That can be a challenge for managers when they try to form real teams. Okay, yeah, fair enough. I'll say fair enough. What I was talking about is a manager setting up a team, but if the individual is going to be a team leader, obviously that's another issue, but I know what you're saying, Brother Bilal, and that's a valid point as well. Okay, if we have any discussions, or should we take a break, Abu Omar?
Yes, if there's no any question, we could have a break for 10 minutes.
Okay.
And we could resume the lecture. Also, based on the feedback, as we said in our message, 4-hour session is quite long, so we have reduced the session, the amount of for the day to 3 hours and a half. Also, we'll give you proper break time. When we say break for 10 minutes, then I'll set up the stopwatch for 10 minutes so that people could have a chance maybe to go and actually to have a real break for 10 minutes. So probably we could have a break now for 10 minutes.
Okay, inshallah.
And come back, what shall I say? In 10 minutes time. Anyway, the stopwatch will be set at the right now.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, Hamdan, yes.
I just have a suggestion and a concern for participants from Nigeria. I don't know if we will be considered. Maybe the session should be shifted to the next 15 minutes when it will run with the time of our prayer, Asr prayer from here. So we use the break time for prayer, and we'll be able to meet up with the.
Yeah, because we have people from diverse places. I hope that people will be able to do their prayer whenever break that we have, because every 15 minutes we'll have a break for about 10 minutes. So I think that's sufficient, inshallah, to those to do prayer, or those who wants to do other things as well.
No.
So yeah, so the break will be now for 10 minutes. And hopefully everybody will come back in 10 minutes time.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay.
when teams fail, the manager who formed them complains about useless team. Okay, so it's interesting because if you have not, as a manager, given them clear objectives, you have not trained them, you have not provided the guidance, then you should be the first to be blamed, actually. Okay, any other reflections? Okay, let's move on to the next session. Now, what we're going to talk about here is what's called almost like what's called Belbin Team roles. Is a part of team dynamics. This was developed by Dr. Meredith Belbin. He identified 9 key roles within a successful team. So if you want to have a diverse team, then you want to identify the roles and put these roles in place. His initial research actually was 8 roles. Then further research showed that it was a 9th role that he identified. So he updated his research. And the idea that each role contributes unique strengths and has associated weaknesses. So any strength that we bring in, we also bring in some weaknesses with it. And understanding these roles help us to improve team dynamics and performance. Now, it's important to know that you don't need 9 people to have 9 roles. Many of us will have strengths in 2 or 3 key roles. Okay, and we'll come to them in a minute. And the purpose of the research was to enhance self-awareness and personal development. One, you know about your area of strength and the areas that you might want to develop. It optimizes team composition and balance. It was quite mentioned by Dr. Khiyar, I think Dr. Hamdani and Dr. Idris, that yeah, you need a good combination of personality and personality types to form a good team. And it can improve communication and collaboration because once we understand where we come from, and we can address potential conflicts and inefficiencies if we know what they are. So the 9 roles are here, starting from the complete finisher to the coordinator, to the implementer, to the monitor, to the plant. And then we have resource investigator, we have the shaper, the specialist, and the team worker. I'll come to each one of them separately. First of all, we start from the left here, resource investigator. They are actually good in using their inquisitive nature to find ideas and to bring back to the team. Not only ideas, they are finding ideas, they are not creative themselves. We'll talk about the creative people. And these are the people who can find the resources, who can find people, who can find budgets, who can find some opportunities to help them. And their strength is they are outgoing, enthusiastic, and they explore opportunities and develop contacts, especially contacts. A resource investigator is someone who has a lot of contacts, who can create contacts, who can bring in the resources the team needs. I like the way Belbin has put it in. This is allowable weaknesses. You can't have a resource investigator without having some of the weaknesses. They can be might be over-optimistic. Maybe they promise a lot and can lose interest once the initial enthusiasm has passed. Especially in a meeting, I can do that, I can bring this, I can bring that, I can talk to this person. And then once the meeting goes, they forget to follow up on a lead. So that is part of their weakness that you have to accept. A team worker, on the other hand, helps the team to gel together. They use their versatility and identify the work required and complete it on behalf of the team. Now, as you can see, sometimes they take over and do the job themselves rather than working with the team. So they are cooperative, perceptive, and diplomatic, and they listen and they averse friction. So basically, they avoid conflict. A team worker is looking for cohesion all the time. But because they are always looking for cohesion, they're looking for some sort of harmony in the team, they can be indecisive in difficult situations, okay? And they avoid confrontation. So a team worker is trying to make everybody happy. While they have a strength being cooperative, but also they avoid conflict, okay? And the team worker usually is hesitant to make unpopular decisions. When it comes to tough decisions, this is their area of their weakness, they would tend to avoid it as much as they can. When we have a coordinator on the right-hand side, they needed to focus on the team's objectives. They draw out team members and delegate work appropriately. So they're very good at delegating, coordination, and so on. They're usually mature and they're confident, and they can identify talents within the team, and then they clarify the goals. However, they can be manipulative, and they can offload their work to somebody else, and somebody else is doing their work rather than themselves. Okay? And that is the difficult part. So they might over-delegate. A coordinator might over-delegate. Okay? And they have little work to do themselves eventually. When it comes to Plant, on the left-hand side, Plant is a creative person, very highly creative, and they are very good at solving even complex problems in very unconventional ways. Sometimes they call out of the box. They come up with out of the box ideas. So their strengths, creative, imaginative, and free thinking, and they generate ideas and they can solve difficult problems. Sometimes they can ignore some of the details, the incidentals, and they may be too preoccupied to communicate effectively. A lot of creative people, imaginative people, visionary people, they find it difficult to communicate effectively. Okay? And sometimes you might see them to be like almost like absent-minded or forgetful. They have said their ideas, they've said anything, and then they might even lose interest in the rest of the work, but they have given you a solution. When it comes to evaluators, these are people who are very methodological, very logical. They provide a logical eye, making some impartial, objective judgments when it's required, and they weigh up the team's options in dispassionate way. So they use a less emotions, but more logical way of approaching. Okay, so their strengths, sober, strategic, and discerning, and they see all options and they judge generally accurately. What they lack is the drive and the ability to inspire others. They're okay, and they can be over of mistakes, a lot of details they look into, and that might demoralize the team. Okay, and because they look into details, they tend to be slow to come to decisions. They want more information. They want to review everything. Okay, so that's a monitor evaluator. Then we have the specialist. It brings in in-depth knowledge of a key area to the team. These are like Dr. Muhammad Idris, who's done a research on culture. We bring him as a specialist. He will tell us a lot about culture. Okay, and then they're single-minded, self-starting, and dedicated. They provide specialist knowledge and skills. They have very good idea about that area. They are a specialist. They have deep knowledge, and they can help the team to understand the issue. Okay, they tend to contribute on a narrow front, on a specific area, and can dwell on the technicalities of the issue. So they go so much technical, the team sometimes might find it difficult to follow, and they might find it too academic, and they say, look, this is really getting now out of hand. We need to be practical. We need to get the job done, especially if you talk about like team worker who might not be interested in this type of details. They can overload their team with information because they are so specialist. They know a lot about that specific area. They can overload the team to a point the team can get frustrated. A shaper is the one who can drive the issue that the team keeps moving and does not lose focus or momentum. There are times, especially if the project is complex, it's a long time to deliver, and then team members can feel exhausted. They might want to give up. They might want to take a break, but a shaper is the one who that keeps the momentum up and obviously motivates the team. Obviously, they have strengths of challenging. They're quite dynamic, and they thrive on pressure. There are people, they do not thrive on pressure. Shaper, on the other hand, they will work better under pressure. Obviously, they have the drive and courage to overcome obstacles. Obviously, they can be prone to provocation. They can be provocated, and obviously, sometimes might offend people as well because they their people skills might be too little or very weak, and they can upset people. They could be also, they could risk becoming aggressive because of their people's skills. And sometimes they might use bad jokes, humors that people don't like it. Even though their attempt is they're trying to make things done, but the humor they bring in can offend other people. Okay, implementer. They need to plan a workable strategy and they carry out as efficient as possible. These are people that you can rely on. These are the people actually, once everything has been agreed, the solution is agreed, the plan is in place, they take it and run with it and they implement it. They're practical, reliable, and very efficient, and they are able to turn ideas into actions, and they can organize the work that needs to be done. They can be a bit rigid, meaning they can be inflexible, and they are slow to respond to new possibilities. We have a plant who come up with new ideas. Their enemy is the implementer. The implementer, once got the plan, they don't want to do anything else. But plant might come with more ideas, and we find our implementer is a bit rigid, and they do not want to respond to new ideas. Yeah. Again, similarly, they might be slow to relinquish their plans, and they are in favor of positive changes. Okay. So even might be the new ideas that have come are positive changes. They might be good, but they are not willing to relinquish, to let it go. Last but not least, we have our complete finisher. It's most effectively used at the end of the task, at the end of the project, and can scrutinize the work for errors, subjecting it to the highest standards of quality control. A complete finisher is good towards the end of the project. Painstaking, conscientious, and anxious, and searches out for errors, and polishes and perfects. Okay, they can be actually stressed, they can be inclined to worry a lot, and they are reluctant to delegate. Opposite the coordinator, a complete finisher will not delegate, they will be reluctant, and they prefer to do themselves. And don't be surprised if you see them that they could be accused of taking their perfections to extremes. So, in summary, we have the action-oriented roles, a shaper, an implementer, and a complete finisher. We have people-oriented roles, coordinator, team worker, and resource investigator. And then we have the thinking element of our colleagues, who are the plant, the monitor, evaluator, and the specialist. As I said earlier on, many of us would have strength in 2 or 3 areas of the roles. The most important part is to identify what our roles are, what our team roles are, what our strengths might be, and then bringing in other people to compensate for our weaknesses. It's very similar when you have a football team. You don't want everyone to be a striker or everyone to be a defender or a midfielder. But you want a striker, you want a left wing, a right wing, you want a middle team, okay, a middle player, a midfield player, and then you want defense, okay? So you have all those elements to win a football match. The same way, when you to have a team in an organizational setup, you will need the aspect of action, you need the aspect of people, you need the aspect of thinking. And within that, we have 3 in each of those areas. Okay. Question for you is, from your experience, do you recognize these roles in yourself and in your team? And if you were to choose the top 3 roles that actually resonate with you, which ones would they be? How about your team? Do you think you have a balanced team that has all the 9 roles included? Not 9 people, but 9 roles. Be careful of that. And if not, what can you do about it? Take a couple of minutes to think, to reflect, okay? And then we'll come to the next sort of discussion before we move on.
Yeah, before I comment on your question, yeah, my question is, how do I know where I stand on this categories? First, second, how do I know others where they stand in the team members? If we are 4 or 5 members of the team, How do I know who is good as a thinker, who is good as implementer, who is good as people oriented? This question, I think if we can answer it. The second question is, can we benefit from our childhood? In our childhood, we have been playing games as team members. We create football team, different types of teams. Does that impact on our adulthood as team members?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Good question. Jazakallah khairan. Okay. But first of all, there are obviously there are systematic ways of identifying your team roles. There is a questionnaire that Dr. Meredith Belbin developed. In this questionnaire, if you answer all the questions and then you do all the scoring, it will tell you your top 3 team roles that you have identified, and the middle ones and the last ones. And another way of doing it, actually, we as adults, after experience, we can actually tell who has a strength in what area. From experience, we should be able to tell who is a thinker, who is a people person, who is action oriented. Maybe we do not have the exact assessment, scientific assessment like Dr. Belbin has done it, but generally working with people, you know that who are the ones who upset a lot of people but they get the job done, and the ones who make people happy but they don't get the job done, okay? Or the one who actually try to find the middle way and compromising and so on. So from your experience, you might be able to identify some individuals, even your own team roles, what they might be, where you might feel comfortable. But the best way is obviously to take the assessment. There's a paid assessment that you can get from their own website, from Belbin's website, or there is a free one, that PDF file that I can send and share with everyone if they want to do their own assessment. The second one about our childhood, yes, I think many of these personality types, even though this is specific in the context of team roles, we have inherent preferences based, even maybe genetics, not only childhood, but the way we were born. We have certain personalities in ourselves that influence us, plus our childhood, plus our upbringing. And I can see it even with my own kids, because I do a lot of personality types exercises and assessments, and I see my children, and they have a lot that resonates with me. Now, partially is genetic, and partially is because the way I behave, I'm their role model when they're kids. Now, obviously, they don't think I'm their role model, but when they were kids, they were following me. Now they have the same thinking, the same approach to things. So it's both. Yes, it can be nurture and nature. It could be that what we learned in our childhood, but also something that we were born with as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, Tosin, Bismillah.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Yeah, I just have this question. Looking at the context of this topic and the responsibility of a manager, which is to lead and to direct the direct employee, I'm of the opinion that every manager should have or should fall under the action-oriented role, which is being a shaper, implementer, and a complete finisher, in my own opinion. Now, in contrary, if a manager does not possess any of these attributes, can we say that is a weakness on the part of the manager and need to develop on this area? Or it is just, it doesn't matter, I just a little bit, I need your explanation and a guide on this. Thank you very much.
Okay. Fair point. I think as we mentioned yesterday, and I think Tosin, you were with us, we said we want to focus on our strengths rather than on our weaknesses in many areas, unless it's a behavioral issue. And what it means is that if I am an action-oriented person, like a shaper or implementer or a complete finisher, and have a weakness in a specialist or a plant, I cannot be creative even if I learn it. Creativity sometimes is something you're born with, okay? You might be able to develop it, but you will not be an expert. So you are better off in your team to bring in a plant or a team worker or a coordinator to compensate your weakness, rather than try to focus on your weakness as if you're going to be as an expert as a coordinator. If coordinator tends to be one of your areas of the lowest scoring, you might as well forget it. Okay, bring in a coordinator to help you. okay, and hone their strengths so they become expert rather than you doing them. Now, there is no such thing to say a manager should be action-oriented or people-oriented or thinking-oriented. Now, obviously, an ideal situation, you want them to have a combination of these things. But the most important thing is that they know their strengths, they know their weaknesses, they know the resources they have, and they can actually bring in the people to help them. So that is the most important thing. We should not fix to say actually a manager should be action-oriented or people-oriented or thinking-oriented. We find managers in all these areas, and we have to work with them. Abdul Rauf, you're saying, depending on the task mission we are involved in, we might reflect the three role orientations in different levels of implementation. That's an ideal situation. Obviously, as we grow, as we get older, as we get mature, we tend to adapt our approach in terms of resolving the issue. But our default behavior, our preferences will always force us to be in one of those areas, generally, okay? And we need to be aware of that, and we need to bring in. But the most important thing you have to remember is that when we are forming teams, as I said, you don't bring in all strikers or all midfield or all defense. You want to make sure that you have a combination of all three. You have a striker, you have a right wing, you have a left wing, you have a midfield, you have a defense. And that's how you want to do it, even in a way of forming a team. And I think that was mentioned earlier on. I think Dr. Muhammad Idris and Dr. Khia, when they said the diversity of the team. Okay, what sort of diversity are we looking at? This could be type. Okay, we might want to have experience diversity, gender diversity, and so on. But if you look at the team roles, it's also important to make sure we have a combination of these roles. Okay, anyone else? Does anybody recognize themselves in these roles or their team members? There is nothing, by the way, there is no bad or good team role. So if you say yourself, I'm a plant or I'm a shaper or I'm a coordinator, it doesn't mean that you are bad or good. It's just who you are. That's your preference, that's your strength. Okay, in which case, I just want you to take, obviously you will have the slides, but consider these team roles, reflect with your teams, and see whether you can improve combination of teams and the way you form teams in the future. Okay, we have good Dr. Muhammad Idris.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum, Doctor. I was wondering, is it much easier to identify yourself or a team member as part of the three roles, like the thinker, the doer, the people person, than the detailed one?
Yes, definitely. Initially, yes, you want to start with where do I sit in? But look, even if you're an action-oriented person, you might have strengths in the resource coordinator investigator, okay? You might have some good contact people and other things because it's not, but it will be good, yeah. Overall, you might want to identify yourself in one of the three areas. And then below that, you might say, look, I'm more of an implementer and complete finisher, but I don't think I'm a shaper. But I might be a plant or I might be a specialist, or that's fine. Yeah.
I see.
Start with the top three and then try to figure it out. But I think I'm going to send to Dr. Khiar or Education First a questionnaire that he can fill in, and then you will see the results, and you can do that with your team as well. Okay. We have Muhammad Ibrahim. I found myself in action and people-oriented roles at times. The team perceives it as aggressive, and I have identified my areas of weakness. Okay, that's interesting. Thank you. Walid Ali, coordinator, team worker, and source investigator or resource investigator. Okay. So you find yourself more in people-oriented. Yeah, that's fine. That's good. Okay, and then we have Fuad. I have different traits from the different roles, but depending on the overall explanation, I feel I have action-oriented roles. Okay, brilliant. Yes, yeah, Dr. Khiari, you're right. There is an overlap between some of the roles. We do not have to be fixed 100% action or people or thinking oriented goals. Definitely. Okay, let's move on then to the next stage. When teams are formed, okay, there are the 5 stages they go through. So according to Tuckman in 1965, what he developed, he said teams go through phases, typically, okay, from 1 stage to stage 5, and that is when they start performing very highly. These stages are called forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. And the idea is help us to understand the team development process. Basically, when we form a team first time, what happens, okay? And why do we get some problems at the beginning of the team? And then what happens when the team start performing? It's a framework that identifies and addresses team dynamics, and it can help leaders to actually see at what stage they are, and based on that, they can lead their teams effectively. So the 5 roles, as I said earlier on, is forming, team is getting together, the stage, okay, they know each other, there's a lot of excitement, and then they go with a bit of fighting as a storming stage, and then it comes the norming, they're becoming friends, and this is when they perform at their best. And if it is a limited project, that is when the adjourning happens. So in a forming stage, team members are introduced, the high dependence on leader for guidance, they don't know each other, or there is some sort of clarity that needs to be done. The roles and responsibilities are unclear, and there's a bit of excitement, anticipation, but also some anxiety. How do I fit in with this team? How do I work? Are we going to be successful? When it comes to storming, this is when the conflict starts. There's competition. I think somebody mentioned earlier on personal egos coming into place, okay? And they have to be handled. Team members challenge each other and the leader. The clarification of goals and power struggles and difference in opinions appear. And this is where obviously the egos can come in as well. And there's actually potential frustration, and there might be resistance to adapt to the new forms of the team. And the leader needs to play a crucial role in that area. When it comes to norming, this is where the norms have been established, the standards have been agreed. Everybody knows what they expect is expected of them and how they should behave. And there is more increased cohesion, there is collaboration, a trust starts building. And we talked about trust yesterday, and we'll talk a bit more today as well. And the roles and responsibilities are now much clearer. Everybody knows their role, everybody knows what to do, and they know the role of the others. And they start supporting each other, and they start sharing feedback. At the performing stage, actually, this is at the highest level when productivity and efficiency is at its best. They're doing extremely well because they have gelled together, they have removed all the misunderstandings, all the conflicts have been dealt with, and there is a clear vision and shared goals that everybody agrees and understands. And there is a commitment to the team. Now, the more you know, the more you trust each other, you get the more you're committed. And there is an autonomy and problem solving and decision making happening now because they trust each other. They can delegate to each other. You do this, I will do this, and let's meet together and let's finish off the job. With this will not happen at the beginning where everybody wants to do everything. They want to have their ego. But then when it comes to performing, that is when they're performing the best. If it is a temporary project, obviously there is a completion of the project of the task. The team is disbanded. And there's quite a reflection in terms of the success and the challenge they faced. They might even remember the days of storming when they get upset with each other and how that was resolved. And there will be some mixed emotions because of what they went through, okay, in terms of the accomplishment and separation, because they felt they were part of the team, but then now they have to move on. Okay. Questions for you. I really like discussions because, I cannot talk forever. Consider a team that you have worked with. Do you remember the stages you went through? And what really happened, or what really helped the team to get the performing stage? And what would you do in the future when leading a new team or setting up a new team? Any reflections, first of all? Let's start with the first one. From your experience, have you ever experienced the 5 stages? Do you recognize them or not?
Yes, I do.
Tell us more.
Basically, because we are talking about non-for-profit context, the non-for-profit, some of the structure of the organization is electing leadership or the trustees or board. And sometimes the trustees, they are elected completely. They are all new to the role. And when they come without building the team to the stage that they could perform, they start taking action and changing within the organization which has been running. And this definitely a recipe for disaster. So I advised on that time to be patient, not to take any action, because we are just coming. And the people have been working for so many years. So you are a stranger. Who are you? Nobody knows you. So the mistake was that the people start to do action, change a few things, taking decision in certain part. As a result, it led to complete failure of the team. So all the new members have to resign, to leave their post, and it became very toxic environment within a couple of months. So this is a dangerous. Always my approach is, the first, when you are new, don't take any action, try to understand everything. If you have any queries, ask. Then when you are as a team united, then you could start taking action and changing if there are something was changing.
So they did not go, they did not even reach the stage of performing. They just sort of disbanded.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's a good point. But the other point actually is, and this is something when I train on governance, we should have some sort of what do we call it, staggering of board members. You do not elect all of them. So always you leave 30% from the previous board should stay, and then you bring in 60-70% of the new board members. So then there is some sort of continuation. But bringing in an entirely new board, that is, as you said, a recipe for disaster, especially if the leader is weak and is not setting the expectations to build a good team. But very good example, Brother Abdul Qadir. Who else can give us some examples? Give us some successful stories. We've heard of the bad ones, but yeah. Okay, we'll go to Walid Ali and then Dr. Muhammad Idris.
Assalamu alaikum again. I will share a successful story regarding our foundation or school. Is Al-Nahda Foundation Faisal Community Schools in Cairo. How does it started? And we have gone through all the 5 steps that we have mentioned: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. At the beginning, there was a lot of people who were coming to Egypt, especially the Eritrean refugees from Saudi Arabia, Eritrea, and Sudan. And a lot of children were staying at home with no education. And we started thinking that how to help this community or these people. At that time, we were free. We had no work. We had no anything. So we have met with the people who are related to education. We discussed on how to help those people. We started organizing some summer courses, some programs to support our children or the community children. Then after that, there was an idea which came that why don't we establish a school to support a formal school to those students? And from here, we started to find out, to start to in the forming stage. We sat together and we discussed on how to establish, how to find a place where we can support the students. Then after that, the storming stage have came up. We a lot of discussions, a lot of arguments, because this is the first time we are meeting and we have different ideas. It have to be this way. No, it should be this way. The self-egos started and a lot of things. Then after that, we have came up to one idea or under one umbrella, and which is the norming stage. Everyone have took a task. We were around 5 to 6 people. We started to distribute the tasks among us on how to each one of us should find out a thing, like we should find out a license for the school. We should find out a curriculum. We should find out a building and this stuff. So people have distributed, and we have added more people to support us in this state. Then after that, it came to the performing stage. After we found out each one of us have completed the task, and we have gathered again. And by the end of the starting of the year, we have came to the forming stage. And then after that, we celebrated in 2018 the first school. We have opened it, and today we have 4 branches in Cairo supporting these communities. So this is successful.
Walid, that's a brilliant story, and I want to hear from you. What helped you as a team to move from the storming to the norming stage? What really helped you? Because Abdul Qadir gave an example. They went from storming to adjourning. They disbanded because they could not go to norming even stage. So what really helped you to go from storming to norming?
From storming to norming, a lot of discussions. We try to convince each other. We try to elaborate the ideas between each other. The main idea is how to support our people. So let's think in this way and find out similar ideas, and let's keep the arguments aside. Like, let's try to find out how to support this community by the resources we have, and later on we can find out a time for our arguments. This is how it went, because a lot of communities or a lot of organizations fail in this point. When you stick on your ego and you start to just force your idea to the people, and this idea must be, this is where it starts failing. So this we have skipped this point when we have worked on the points of agreements, and in any point we were trying to elaborate our ideas. We explained to each other that what I meant to say is this and this and this, and this is how it went. Brilliant. So without these 5 points, or with this stage, we cannot establish a healthy organization. So the forming, storming, norming, performing stages are the main steps in our journeys. We have seen a lot of organizations around us that failed or stuck in the middle of their journeys, or they didn't expand as much as we expanded. Every day we can see our successes nowadays. Starting from 2018 to 2024, we have got 4 formal schools and we have 1 technical school. Our administrations also, we became from higher administration to branch administrations, departments administrations. We have got all the departments which is new, known globally in the organizations.
Very good. So during the storming session, there was a lot of discussions, debate, and persuasion to move to the norming stage, basically. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
definitely.
Let's hear from Dr. Idris, and then we'll go to Tosin.
I think the stages are actually sometimes it's funny to watch. The person in the first stage being very kind, very shy, and then in a matter of days or months, you see this person shouting and in the team, and then they're working together. Also, on the third stage is always funny. But I think one point Brother Abdul Qadir mentioned.
Yeah,
I want to comment on it, which is it has actually 2 sides of it's like a double sword. It's like when you mentioned the board example, Dr. Nasser, and that's a great example actually. When a board work together for a long time, they bring culture, a certain way of doing things, and sometimes it may not be good. And if a new person come, if they are not careful in their approach, this person may be like just one like them. And the whole idea is that you are bringing new people so that you can bring new blood, new ideas. But if you just bring them to the same group, to the same thinking, to the same being quiet, or whatever the culture is there, you are losing basically the whole idea of bringing new people. So that is an area that I think organization we need to be very careful about. I think you watch some videos about the clinic experiment where they brought people in waiting for a doctor in the lobby of a clinic, and then whenever there is a sign, there is they know all of them, they stand, and of course it doesn't make sense, but you see the new people doing the same thing every time. So that how you avoid that, maybe if you could also comment on that, Dr. Nasser.
Yeah, okay, inshallah. We'll do that, but I think I want to give a chance to Tosin. You originally raised your hand.
I think from previous, he didn't.
All right, okay. In terms of Dr. Muhammad Idris, what he said about people standing up every time the light comes on in a clinic, this is what is people try to conform to the norm. So when you go to a team, when you go to a group, when you go to any situation, you see what the normal behavior is. You just conform to that, and you do what everybody has done before you. I remember when I came first to UK and I was studying English language, and one of the students asked our teacher, "What is queue?" A queue, as in a queue up, people one after another. And he laughed. He said, "You live in England, you don't know what queue is." And he said, "The only thing you need to do is go to any high street in London and stand up facing the wall. After 5 minutes, you turn, you will find a queue behind you." Okay. So people, sometimes they don't have their own sort of independent critical thinking. They just follow what has been done by the previous people. And that's what's called conforming to the norm. There's a book actually called Influencing, can't remember, Dr. something Caldini. He talks a lot about these things, and actually we are human beings. And let me tell you, I mean, this is normal. It's okay if somebody stands up because of a light are on or a queue. There have been research where, where a woman is being sort of abused by a man or being hit or beaten on a street. And as soon as 2 or 3 people just pass and ignore it, everybody ignores it. Everybody ignores it. Why is that? Because the one in front of me has not done it, and the one after that has not done it. I will not do anything. And the first excuse they have is maybe they are just husband and wife arguing on the street. But as soon as one person goes and starts stopping that fighting, everybody comes in to help them again. So we just follow, whether we see bad or good things, we just follow it. And it happened to me with my experience as well. I was driving on a road once and I saw some smoke coming from a flat. So there were people outside seeing it doing nothing. I stopped and went to the flat, and then I called the 999 to get the fire brigade. Then everybody started crowding. What's happening? Is there somebody inside? And other things, they start helping me. But even though they were standing and I was driving, they didn't care. So this is what people follow the norm. Unfortunately, we do not have our own independent critical thinking. Okay, Abdul Raif is saying this Maghrib for I think we'll be breaking in a minute, inshallah. But what I want to do is first, there was a question from Fuad. What to do and how to adjust ourselves when we are introduced in already established team. I think when you have established team, obviously if it's a large team, it's well organized, you have your induction or what you call onboarding, and people explain to you what is the norm, how things work, and so on. Obviously, in smaller organizations, you just jump into a team. The best way to do is take the action yourself, mentor one of the team members to help you to understand it. So choose an individual that you can work with from the team to explain to you the team dynamics, where they are in this stage in terms of the team, what they have done, what challenges they are facing, and what is the norm, what is not the norm. Then eventually you can make your own mind up, how to approach it. So choose a mentor, choose somebody to help you from the team. That will be better. But obviously, if you have a proper induction and onboarding, that will be even better. And then Abdul Rauf is saying, is there a possibility in team development to jump or ignore the stages? First of all, you don't ignore or jump. This is natural progression. Okay, this is natural progression. You don't say, let me go to the forming, and then let me go to storming, then let me go norming. You're not saying that. It happens naturally. But what might happen is that some of the stages are shorter than the others. Now, with Abdul Qadir is saying, look, like the storming was quite long and then ended because just they couldn't work together. You likely like to see the storming stage to be shorter period and the performing and norming to be a longer period. But if you stay long in the storming period, and then you have a problem because you start building hatred with each other. There will be a lot of what do you call it? People being hurt because the conflict will start being personal. It will move from being objective to being very personal. So you want to avoid that. You want to avoid, and as a leader, maybe you will need to notice, actually, has this gone too far that we have to stop it? I've heard one member tell me that actually we moved from storming to performing. I said, I'm not sure if he jumped it, but the norming stage might have been very short period that you have not noticed it. Because it's not you deliberately to jump, because this happens in our unconscious mind, the way we behave. Dr. Idris, you have a comment? Yeah, I think you're saying, good morning, a great seminar is very important. A team may go through some of the stages, not necessarily all stages. Yeah, we've just commented on that one. And then we have education first. Establish common process, purpose, close supervision, guidance. Okay, these are some of advice from the, okay. Walid Ali, I believe to establish a healthy and strong organization have to go through the steps mentioned. Failing to do some might affect you in the future. I think that's a good point. I mean, just imagine if a team all of a sudden, say for argument's sake, goes from forming to norming and they pass the storming stage. What most likely they have done is that they buried some of their differences under the carpet. Okay, and you'll come back again to haunt them because they really have not established the norm in a proper way. So I think that's what Walid Ali is saying, and I think I tend to agree with you. These are natural stages to go through. If you don't go through the storming stage, then be worried that it might come back and haunt you. When you're supposed to be at a later stage of performing, you might come back to be in a storming stage because there has been some sort of artificial harmony. Okay, so Dr. Belbin, Meredith Belbin, he said the 5 stages are documented. They're not his, but obviously he said there are different leadership styles required for the different stages. During the forming stage, the leader has to be more directive, okay? They needs to tell them what to do. It cannot be a participatory or persuasion thing, okay? Because they are at a very early stage, they don't know each other. Leader takes control. Leader does most of the work, okay? In terms of leading the team and managing them. During the storming session stage is where I like what I think what Walid was talking about here. There was a lot of persuasion. There was a lot of discussion. What are our aims? What are the sort of our goals? And the leader has to approach it with a persuasive action. Okay, they need to notice conflict is coming. Let's hear everybody. Let's find what is the best solution for everyone. Leave some space for conflict. Get it out of the air. Get it out of their chest. Okay, up in the air, and then deal with it rather than burying it under the carpet. Then you move on to the, once you realize as a leader you are entering a norming stage, make it more participatory approach. Now, is norm, everybody accepts everyone, the standards have been agreed, okay, and then have a participatory approach to a stage. When you come to performing stage, delegated. Now the team can work on their own, okay? They've reached a stage that they can perform, and now we have to do is change your leadership style to a delegative approach. Is delegation, everybody knows what to do. They will come for their regular meetings. We'll check few things. If something goes wrong, we will fix it. So these are the leadership styles that should be adopted during the different stages. Abdul Qadir, maybe from your experience, what was the leader role when the storming stage happened?
Well, unfortunately, the leader, I deliberately mentioned there are so many successful team building and teams that I worked with, by the way.
Yeah.
But I mentioned the negative one because it's so dangerous, especially when you are new, start taking action. I mentioned this terrible example because I see that in our group, there are people from different countries. And I can see in some of these countries, there are friction. And some of the organization, maybe they are kind of peacemaker, advocacy, this kind of thing. So I mentioned this one because it's extremely dangerous if they come to form as a team.
Yeah.
Probably they cannot maybe deliver the service that they want, and it could be very chaotic when they come as new people and straight away taking action. So they need a lot of patience and to give time until they are a solid team, because when they are a solid team, they could face the adversity outside in the environment, then they could make change. But if they want to be rush and take action, probably that could destroy them and destroy the communities around them, because they are needed as peacemaker. That's why I mentioned this one. Yeah. I think that the leader didn't listen, start taking action against even the advice of the rest of the team. And unfortunately, because of the organization established, there are staff members who worked for the organization for many years. If you are new and you are facing all these people and those community, you are going for disaster. But if the leader doesn't listen, then you have no choice but to step aside. Anyway, probably my answer was lengthy, but I'm cautious of the time because we exceeded the 50 minutes that we had set a task for, that we have to stop after 50 minutes. Probably now maybe we have a break for 15 minutes and we continue the discussion. What do you think?
Yeah, I am done. My session is finished on this one. There's only one comment from Hamdani, and I agree with him that sometimes, not all the time, but during storming stage, I would not say the survival of the fittest, by the way, but those who are committed to the mission, those who are committed to the goal, they will stay, and those who do not fit with the organization, they will leave. The survival of the fittest is something, you know, the stronger, whatever it is, the one who I can argue is surviving. I don't think I would say that. It is the one that is more committed to the organization values and mission will stay, or to the team. And those who artificially join the team, obviously they will find it difficult to work and they will jump ship. I agree with you. Good point, Abdul Qadir. Okay, Jazakallah khairan. Then we'll have a break, inshallah, and come back in 15 minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes this time.
Okay, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Side, inshallah, we'll share with you some resources. And we have one of the best books, the 5 Dysfunctional Teams, I think. I forgot the name of the book, but we'll share with it.
Patrick Lencioni, that's the one I'm going to cover next.
Yes, we have that book on PDF. Inshallah, we'll share it with you at the end of the program, so that we know who is with us till the end. And so we'll share only with those who remain till the end. We'll share all our resources with them, inshallah. We have many good books on non-profit management and leadership and teams. So we'll share with you. My issue is on our experience as Education First. Still, Education First is a virtual organization, and it was established in 2013 as a WhatsApp group. And slowly we started thinking about getting a license, and we get license in 2015 from the Charity Commission in the UK. Now, in between, as we said, the storming and till we reached to the norming, it took us a lot of time. All our discussions were online. We were meeting till late night, we're discussing. There is no any fruits, there is no any achievement, just discussing. And sometimes even my wife used to say, what you are going to contribute, you are just talking. Yes, that talking, but at the end gave this result where we are today. There should be some discussion, some misunderstanding, some hot debates. But at the end, if your vision is clear and your goals are clear, things will take shape and everyone will know where he deserves to be, or will accept the other to be as a leader, as a colleague, as a friend. So we'll end up to the norming, inshallah, and we start our organization giving fruits. So you should not be in a hurry, like Brother Abdul Qadir Budair said. In the beginning, there could be some misunderstandings. Some people come with their egos. Until they get rid of it, it will take time. But at the end, inshallah, things will take shape and everyone will know and appreciate the other side. Maybe I am a thinker and the other brother is an implementer. Maybe so we have different roles we can play within the team, and at the end we have to see what we can achieve together. Thank you very much.
Okay, barakallah fiik, Dr. Khiyar. Anyone else who wants to comment or has a question? Or we move to the next stage. Okay, so Dr. Khiyar already given you an introduction, because the next one is why teams fail. And this is based on Patrick Lencioni, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Okay, so why not start? Dr. Khiyar, since you have read the book, maybe you don't comment on it, but I want to hear from others. Why do teams fail? Okay. Anyone who can comment, why do teams fail? Failing, sometimes people ask me, they do not achieve their full potential. They do not achieve their full potential, okay? Probably they do not fully achieve the goals that were assigned to them. It doesn't mean they don't perform. They do perform, but failure is when you do not achieve your full potential. Okay, since we don't have any other comments, then we should
There's a comment on
okay,
the...
yeah, good, yeah. Lack of cooperation. Okay, good. What else?
Also, the qualities about the personal that we went through yesterday. So the type of person, if you have patience and you could listen, there's a chance. But if you are hasty and you take decision and you explode quickly,
yes,
this kind of characters, I think it's a recipe for team failure.
Okay, good. So yeah, that's good as well. So personality types play a big role. Lack of cooperation, lack of coordination. Anything else?
In the comment section, lack of common goals.
Lack of common goals. Good.
The people are commenting.
Lack of communication. Lack of interest.
Yeah, good.
Lack of clear direction.
Lack of clear direction. And Dr. Khiyar, Shura, mashallah. Lack of trust and poor communication for art. Good. Lack of common goals, lack of communication. Brilliant. So what Dr. What Patrick Lencioni have come with is that even though there might be a lot of issues, the common issues, the top 5 issues that actually prevent teams from reaching their full potential are only 5. If you can solve those 5 issues, then the other problems you will be able to find solutions to them. And understanding these dysfunctions can help the team to improve their dynamics and their performance. So this is obviously to recognize and address the dysfunctions of a team, and obviously enhance collaboration, communication, and overall team effectiveness. So what he says is, starting from the bottom, the first dysfunction is the absence of trust. And trust is the foundation. That's why it's designed at the bottom, okay? of any functional team. And we talked a lot about trust yesterday, if you remember. And without trust, no team can actually be vulnerable. No individual can be vulnerable, and they would not be able to talk to each other in a very open and constructive way. They will not share any of their mistakes or concerns because they fear the judgment or retribution. So, and any team that lacks trust eventually has a fear of conflict. Okay, why should I be vulnerable? Why should I challenge you? Why should you challenge me? And we filter everything when we are talking and debating, and it becomes to like sort of almost masked or veiled discussion and guarded comments that prevent us from having a constructive conflict. And this by itself raises an issue, because once you have fear of conflict, then there leads to lack of commitment. People will not commit to agree to issues that are agreed with because they have not been debated properly. I have not said my full views. I created some sort of artificial harmony, and now I am in a situation, I come out from the meeting, I don't agree with the decision in the first place. And that caused a problem. Once I don't agree with the decision, but I did not debate it, then what happens is I can avoid accountability. Avoidance of accountability is because I have come out from a meeting without any agreement, without any commitment. And then once the avoidance of accountability happens, is that leads to lack of clear of plans, lack of clear follow-up, action plans. Individuals are hesitant to take decisions, and it takes us to inattention to results. The results, the common goals, like few of you said, clear goals, attention to results are not there anymore. So absence of trust leads to fear of conflict, leads lack of conflict, lack of commitment, and then avoidance of accountability. And so what are the hindrances? The first hindrance is invulnerability. People don't want to be vulnerable. People don't want to be caught making mistakes or saying something that is not acceptable or wrong. They have fear of retribution. Because of that, they don't trust each other, they don't become vulnerable, and then you have a challenge. And then as a result, we end up creating artificial harmony, that everybody seems to be happy, everybody seems to be nice. Remember, I said during the 5 stages, if you don't go through the storming stage, most likely you're going to come back to it at one point, because you have created that artificial harmony where everybody seems to be nice, everybody seems to be happy, but nothing is happening. And then happens ambiguity of the decisions. Nobody knows what was the decision, because of the lack of clarity, because the discussion has not taken place in a very open and constructive way. And then everybody starts accepting lower standards of performance. Eventually, our status and ego play a big role. I want to show results that I played. I want to celebrate my own goals, my own achievement, not the goals of the team, not the performance of the team. And many of you mentioned earlier on, the ego and the status of the individual plays a big role, and the leader has to do something about them. Okay. No, we don't have scenarios. Okay. So how do we do it? As a leader, first of all, you go first. As a leader, you go first. Become vulnerable. If you're discussing an issue and you struggle, say, really, I don't know how to solve this problem. I've never come across this problem. I have a challenge. This is my weakness. Now, in our tradition, in our culture, as I think you mentioned yesterday when we talked about trust, we don't like to be vulnerable. We try to mask an image that we are all perfect. We know everything we are doing. I'm not hesitant. Okay, look, we go all through our stress. We go through anxiety. We have our own personal problems. Be open, share the information, share your weakness, tell them you cannot solve the problem on your own and you need your team to come with you. Then once that trust is being built, if you don't see fear of conflict, if you see fear of conflict and there is a lot of artificial harmony, mind for conflict. bring in conflict to the table, bring in alternative views. I remember a story, a CEO walked in with an idea and he said, I have this project and I have these ideas. And every one of the direct reports, the director said, that's great, we agree. He said, okay, then let's meet next week. We discuss it again. And they said, what do you mean? We've just agreed. He said, the fact that you have not given me any alternative ideas, the fact that you have not identified any weakness in my proposal, and the fact that you have not challenged me, it means we have not got the best option and the best idea. That needs to be discussed, okay? As a leader, you need to mind for conflict. You have to bring in, what they call the devil's advocate. I think somebody might have mentioned earlier on. Be the devil's advocate, bring the opposite views there. If there is no conflict, mind for conflict. Otherwise, the discussion is going to be very artificial. And then once it's been debated, you have to force for clarity and closure. What have we agreed? Who is going to do it? Is everybody on board? I will come into more details in that, inshallah ta'ala. But that is very, very important. You cannot leave the room if you have not all agreed what has been decided. Avoidance of accountability. Confront difficult issues. Bring whether the individual or the team. If there's a low standard, tell them this is not acceptable. This is not where we should be by now. We have to deal with this. Okay, yes, there will be conflict. I'll talk a bit about conflict during communications say tomorrow. But as a leader, if you are worried of conflict, if you are worried to confront difficult issues, you're going to live with a very low standards for your team. And last but not least, make sure you focus on collective outcome. The opposite of status and ego. When people are talking about their individual performance, they want to be highlighted as if they are the one that are doing everything. You have to bring in the team says it's a collective outcome. If you remember at the beginning, we said a team is a group of individuals or people work together for a shared goal. Shared goal is not an individual goal. So we need to make sure that message is communicated to the entire team time and time and time again. So creating trust is the first one, is you communicate feelings as well ideas. Now, we don't do personality types here, but there are people who are called thinkers and people called feelers, T and F, okay? If you're a thinker and you try to talk about logic and objectives, okay? No, you need to talk about emotions and feelings, okay? If somebody feels frustrated, say it. I really get frustrated when this issue comes up time and time again. We need to sort it out, okay? Show your feelings, show your frustration, but in a very obviously respectable manner. But we have to show it, we have to see it. Walk the talk. I think even it came yesterday. You have to be the role model. You have to walk the talk as a leader. Otherwise, trust cannot be built. Keep your word and support others in doing so. It's not only that you walk the talk, you keep your words. Make sure the individuals, whether you meet them separately or you meet them in a group, make sure that they keep their word and they have to commit to that. And demonstrate commitment. Say I will do it, go and do it, show them that you have done it. Okay, and yesterday we talked about, if you write it, you're committed to it, and okay, when we talked about goals, okay, if something is not written, it's not good. So as a leader, show your commitment by doing what you have promised to do. Second part, avoidance of fear of conflict. Okay, fear of conflict, deal with the conflict effectively. In one hand, I said mind for conflict, bring in conflict to the table. But then you as a leader, you have to examine your own attitudes towards conflict. And tomorrow we'll speak about the different conflict modes. And if you're not confident about dealing with it, learn the skills to address it positively. There are types of people who avoid conflict all the time. As a leader, it is tough to avoid conflict, okay? You should not avoid conflict. Deal with the conflict, learn how to use conflict. Not always search for compromises. Compromises is not the best solution. That not bring in the potential of the team. You need to bring in the best decision that is for the team. You can establish some team rules for handling conflict successfully, okay? Now, when conflict erupts, what do? Let's sit down and discuss it, okay? That's like during storming sessions especially, okay? Now, from time to time, we will have conflict. We will disagree with each other. But how do we handle it? Okay. No personal attacks, as an example. If it gets too hot, get out and okay. Listen to each other, understand each other. Whatever you want to do as a team, set up the rules. And obviously agree in terms of the behaviors, how everyone will behave when a conflict breaks out. Now, this is quite interesting. I don't think it's mentioned in his book, Patrick Lencioni, but it's mentioned in another book he wrote. But the 5 dysfunctions, you might not find this conflict continuum. This is from a different book, but also by Patrick Lencioni. Now, what Patrick Lencioni says about conflict is that, look, there are 2 types of conflict, constructive and destructive conflict. The extreme end of constructive conflict is artificial harmony. Everybody is happy, we make everybody happy, but nothing is done properly because we are not challenging each other. On the other hand, you have the mean and spirited personal attacks, very destructive conflict. And we don't want to be there as well. In an ideal situation, you want to be in the middle. The ideal conflict point will be in the middle. The reality is there is no magic pill, there is no magic formula that will help you to be in the middle. There is no way. So what you need to do is be comfortable to live in parts of the constructive and parts of the destructive area. So if you cross a line to the destructive area a little bit, it is okay to do so. You have to come here to get here. Otherwise, if you start to live in the constructive area all the time, you will have a problem. Be prepared and be willing and accept that conflict will cross a line to the destructive area, but we don't want to go too far. Up to here, we are fine. We should be happy and comfortable to live within this area. And that's very important. One thing I tell you from my experience with people I manage and people that I coach, when situations, tough issues come up, it has to get worse before it gets better. It has to get worse before it gets better. But the challenge here is for the leader not to take it all the way to being destructive, because that's what we don't want. But to come up to here and then go back is no problem. Okay. There are so many examples, I'm sure, from your own personal life, from your own professional experience. You will know that things have got better after the conflict got a bit too far, a bit worse. Okay. And that is very, very important. If you want to feel comfortable and you want a happy life and nobody upset, nobody thinks, you're not going to achieve the full potential of the team. Actually, Abdul Qadir, if you don't mind, I want to stop here to hear from people what is their experience about conflict and whether this resonates with what I'm saying resonates with what they experience with their teams. مصطفى آدم تفضل.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
وعليكم السلام.
Thank you very much. This was a very nice one. And I liked when you said it has to get worse in order to reach to a better situation. So my question is here. In many organizations, you would see special in organizations that in NGO organizations that are voluntarily serviced, you would see some conflicts between the creating trust versus making positive changes or new developments that has not been experienced by the communities. So always you would see the managers or the leaders, they have a little bit of reservation in order to put these new ideas because most of the time they are not accepted as the old-fashioned ideas are deeply rooted in the communities, and they would hardly be accepted. So what is your advice here in order to deliver such developments and change? How would managers, how should managers treat this issue without being, I mean, much confronted? Thank you very much.
Okay, now two things. Obviously, when you're dealing with communities and the elderly and tribal leaders and they don't want to change, that's difficult because obviously is you are as an organization you're trying to change the organization. Obviously, we need to look at human behaviors and change management and what we can do. But one thing you can do as a manager, and we are working with an external team or external group that you want to change, then I think is lobbying. First of all, is trying to find who in the group is willing to listen, who is the group that you think you can influence, and what makes them tick. Now, what will motivate them to accept these new ideas? And then make sure the leader is comfortable in handling the conflict. Now, if the leader is not comfortable with handling conflict and they want to avoid it and put it under the carpet, say, look, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want any trouble. I don't want this. Keep it as it is. You have an issue. You've got to work with the leader and then maybe work with some people who influence the leader to tell them, look, tell the leader this is not going to work for a long time. Tell the community leader or the tribal leader something have to change. Every one of us, we are human beings. We are influenced by some people. We listen to some, we don't listen to others, okay? Whether rightly or wrongly. Find out who are the people who can convince those group leaders or tribal leaders or community leaders, and then work with them to be able to bring in that change. It's not only about conflict. What you're saying is all about, I think it's about bringing in change in the communities. That's a tough one and maybe a different approach. I think Dr. One of the lecturers is doing about change management. I think Dr. Muhammad Idris, maybe he can tackle it in there as well. Okay, any other comments in terms of conflict? I really want to hear this part because this is the part where many leaders fail or avoid conflict. Dr. Khair, تفضل.
Okay. Here we have the difference between the non-profit and the profit organization or the businesses. In the business, they have this stick and carrot. If someone is intentionally is not cooperating, they may end up his contract and they give him exit. But the problem is in the non-profit, mostly they are done voluntarily, and you cannot kick him out because he's not paid, and maybe he has some support from the community. You have to deal with him, and he cannot get him out of that place. So how can we deal with such people who are not performing and they are not letting the team achieve its goals, and they are very egoistic?
Well, be prepared to have a conflict. Be prepared for them to walk out if they don't like it, and be prepared to face the community sometimes. There have been situations, but you have to be careful. You have to do your own assessment in terms of. I've just lost my big screen. I don't know what happened. 1 second. Okay, sorry. You have to do your own assessment in terms of how much will be a backlash with the community, how much you're willing to face the community and go and talk to the community out. But it cannot go on forever because you have to remember, and I mean, Dr. Muhammad Idris can help us, what type of culture do you want to create in the organization? Okay. Is it everything, are you accepting low standards, low performance? And the organization, you might be community sort of volunteer based, but gradually you might have employees, you might grow, you might expand. And you don't want this type of culture to continue in your organization. So you will have to deal with it. You have to do obviously your own risk assessment in terms of the backlash, but I would say eventually you have to confront it. Okay, anyone else? Okay, we'll move on. Then the third one, addressing lack of commitment. Now, as I said earlier on, at every meeting before you disband, make sure the minutes are agreed, review the commitments at each meeting, ensure that everyone is aligned, and tell them, okay, do you have the clarity on what we have agreed? It is okay to disagree. It's okay to discuss and rediscuss, but eventually you have to agree to the commitment, because you cannot discuss the same issue forever. Okay, I had a group. They said to me that we discuss the same issue every week because nobody disagrees. As a leader, you have to put your foot down. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to discuss it maybe once or twice. Eventually, we have to work out with one agreed point, and everybody is expected to commit to action and tell them, are you on the bus? You're either with us or not with us. Okay, it cannot be anything else. Now, what I say is, by the way, and make sure that commitment, that decision is communicated to the entire organization, either through you as a leader, a CEO, or every director communicating it. What happens is sometimes everybody agrees, the commitment seems to be there. You go, some departments will implement the agreement, the decision, other leaders will not do it. You need to make sure the communication has happened across the board. This is the decision, this is where we are going, okay? Because we have already created a space for trust, for conflict. We've discussed everything. Now it's time to action, okay? And there's nothing wrong to say individually, every one of them, Abdul Qadir, Muhammad, Abdullah, whatever, are you on the bus? You need to tell me now. You're going to commit to action. If not, take them out. I know that's tough. Dr. Muhammad Idris, before I move on.
Yeah, I think whenever there is a change, and sometimes that could be even within a team, you want to move from one status to a future envisioned status, or you want to make a decision. There will be a kind of resistance. So always two things, and I think one of them you mentioned, we need to pay attention to. One is that building coalition, is like trying to find out who on board, the person who's opposing this, how we can influence that person. I think you mentioned that building coalition that overcome the resistance is very, very important, because however legitimate is the and just the decision is, or the change is, but always there will be like some people may just oppose that. That's one thing. The second part I will mention is just trying to know the reason why that person is resisting or opposing. I think knowing the root cause for that, and then trying to overcome that resistance, because sometimes people don't like a change, either because they don't understand it. So you want to clarify it, or train it, or make people on board on it. Sometimes people they just don't like it because there are certain interests that their interest will be hurt, or so try to know the reason why they are opposing that. And sometimes it could be also that they don't like the person who's bringing the change or implementing the change. So these are just some of the areas, and I know Dr. Naser mentioned some of them.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Muhammad Idris. Okay, we have comments from Abdullah for a question. What is your opinion on the informal relationships of team members versus the formally agreed upon relationship? Sometimes the informal ties become strong to shake up, disturb your formal settings. That's the reality. I think the role of the leader needs to make sure, look, we gel with people. There are people we like, we are easygoing. There are people that we might find it difficult. So in a team, there will be formal settings. I'm happy to work with you, but outside the team meetings, I might be more comfortable to work with Muhammad Riz than work with Abdul Qadir. I think that's fine. The leader's role is to make sure that has not influenced the team decision making. And it needs to be confronted that with the individuals. Sometimes they even have these informal settings, 2-3 people, even they have a leader who, whatever that person says in the meeting, that's what goes on. And you have to challenge that. There is no other way of doing it, but it happens. I've seen it in so many places. You have to challenge it, and you have to talk to those individuals. It's fine to have that informal relationship. It's fine to do whatever you want to do outside our meetings. But our meetings, I want it to be individually critical. I want to have your independent thinking, not your group think that is informal meeting. And again, that is as a leader, you have to confront that. It's not easy to do that, but you should do it. Okay. Muhammad Ibrahim said, mention the points and causes of differences, analyze them, and propose solutions to prevent them in the future. Yes, good. Jazakallah khairan. Okay, so we talked about commitments. The fourth one is, which is accountability. First of all, explicitly communicate about goals and the standards of behavior that you expect from everyone. Okay, regularly discuss the performance versus goals and standards. Okay, you know, you can have your own dashboard, have everything you need, but it has to be discussed. It has to be part of the regular meetings. Remember, even when we said about pseudo teams and real teams actually review their performance. They check their progress, uphold the standard that the team has set. Now, focusing on the results is keep the team focused on tangible group goals. This has to be on a group goals. It's not an individual goal, as earlier I mentioned. There is a shared goal, the shared outcome that we want to do. That is our focus. It's not about status and ego, about individuals. And the reward we give is going to be based on the collective success, is not an individual performance. That's something different. When you're working in a team, make sure the shared goals, you know, once we achieve the collective success, we reward, okay? And be happy, be prepared to publicize and recognize contributions. Make sure that happens all the time. Okay, because we are running a bit late, I think. I'm going to be a bit quicker. So high-performing teams need psychological safety, and we need to know how we create it. Okay, psychological safety is basically, again, it's to do part of trust, is the belief that you won't be punished when you make a mistake. Okay, I can make a mistake, I will not be punished. And psychological safety allows for taking moderate risks, speaking your mind, being creative, and sticking your neck out without fear of having it cut off. Dr. Khiyar is going to talk about innovation as well. Creativity, innovation cannot come if we do not take moderate risks, if we do not take some risks. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to fail. Okay. Otherwise, you won't be able to be creative. You cannot be innovative in those spaces. Okay. These are the types of behavior actually can lead to market breakthroughs. Okay, to innovation, to creativity, to many things. When you have psychological safety, when people are free to do that. So, how do you create psychological safety? One, the first approach is conflict as a collaborator, not an adversary. Okay, when you are approaching a conflict, you're conflict as a collaborator, not an adversary. Then you have to make sure you have the skill sets to do that. Avoid the trigger of fight or flight reaction. Okay, it's not okay, I'm going to fight back, or I'm going to just avoid it and leave it. And one of the things approach you can is, how could we achieve a mutually desirable outcome? As a leader, you ask this question. Okay, we seem to be disagreeing on this issue. Okay, how could we achieve a mutually desirable outcome? What is preventing us into coming to an agreed position? Okay, be as a collaborator, not obviously, as I said, as an adversary. Otherwise, you will have a challenge. Look, we are human beings, and I think Dr. Khiyar said, you know, in the academia, people manage their emotions or they regulate their emotions. We will be emotional. So you're speaking human to human, okay? Anticipate reaction and be ready to manage your emotions, and maybe even the others' emotions. Once you anticipate the reaction, you've got to deal with it. And that is very, very important in creating psychological safety. The benefits are a lot. You build professional respect, you encourage radical candor, okay, I'll come to that, and enables open and honest feedback. It overcomes cultural inhibitions and it removes blame. Okay, some of the skill sets that we need are emotional intelligence, boundary settings. I think yesterday we talked about it, planning and organization, team building, and then communication, decision-making, problem-solving, constructive criticism, which is part of feedback, and delegation, which is very important. These are the sort of skills as a leader you will need and to manage them. I'm just going to go about one more slide, and then we'll go to Q&A. So another way of looking when you're managing teams as a leader is John Adair says, when there is a team, there are three aspects you have to look into. There is a task, there is an individual and there is a group. When it comes to the task needs, make sure setting the objectives are clear. The planning aspect is done very well. Allocate all the responsibilities and make sure the performance standards are set. So similar to what Patrick Licioli said. The individuals, provide them some coaching, counseling, developing, and motivating. Look at them as an individual, not only part of the group. So every individual have their own needs, their own motives, they have their own weakness, they have their own strengths. See them as an individual. And as a group, make sure the communication is strong, the team building is in place. And as a group, they are highly motivated and they are disciplined to talk to each other, to challenge each other, to work with each other. Okay, I think that's from me. And please feel free if you have any questions. Otherwise, I will have a task for you to take with you.
Now the platform is open. If you have any questions?
Anybody wants to share or how a team failed? I know we have the storming stage, like Abdul Qadir said, how the board was disbanded, but other examples from practical teams, from real teams that you worked with, do you recognize some of the sort of the dysfunctions of a team? No?
Okay, I can put you in a scenario.
Please, Abdul Qadir, do that. Yeah.
Okay, we have now in this training people from different countries.
Yeah.
I think the challenges may vary from one place to another.
Yeah.
Now, when you are in a team building or an established organization, maybe the people in charge will favor someone because of they are relatives, they are friends, they will put them as a leader of a team.
Yeah.
And some of us maybe has got so much qualities and passion to make differences to their societies.
Yeah.
If this kind of problem occur, what's your advice to people who wants to make change to deliver some good job, but this is the reality that they have, not always the right person are put in the right place?
Okay, let me turn it back to you. I will use my coaching skills. What options do you have?
What options do I have? Maybe looking at the other team members who are sane and sound.
Yeah.
And they have relation with the person appointed or the manager or the management overall.
Yeah. So let me break it to two. Either you're going to keep quiet and move on, or you want to find a solution.
Yeah.
Okay. Keeping quiet and moving on with the team is not an option you want because you really want to change. Then you have to find, first you have to be, by the way, comfortable with conflict. Now, maybe you don't have to challenge in public, but as you said, find some of the team members and talk to them separately, lobby, campaign. Unfortunately, lobbying can be used both ways, for bad and good, okay? Okay? And if it comes to the crunch at the meeting, it says, what are we trying to achieve? Do we want the right person for the right job in the right place? And if that is the case, I have my view and I want it to discuss. Okay? It doesn't mean, let's say Abdullah was nominated for a chair. I might disagree, and I put it in a very objective way, but in a very assertive way. I will talk tomorrow about assertiveness and passiveness. But we have to be prepared to be assertive. We have to be prepared to manage the conflict and be comfortable with the conflict because it is not personal, but also be prepared to accept the group decision eventually after discussing it. But they always think, what options do I have? Are you comfortable to live with that decision just to keep quiet? And if the answer is no, then you have to challenge it and find ways of doing it. Okay. You know what? Bismillah. Okay, Tosin. تفضل توسين. Okay, here is.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum, Dr. Naser. During your discussion, you mentioned about things getting worse. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. Yeah, you mentioned during your lecture that in a normal setting, things will get worse before they will get normal. And I believe most of this worrisome stage do come in the storming stage because of difference in ideology, difference in background, difference in belief, and difference in quality and in kind of professionalism. So this will happen in the storming stage. As a leader, is it advisable? I mean, what is the timeline or expected timeline for a storming stage? Is there any prescribed timeline for a storming stage that a leader must come into place and take a decisive action so that things does not get out of hand? Or the leader should just look at every situation and manage until things get normalized and then people get to know each other adequately, or it can take a step at the end of the timeline?
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Tasin. Okay, two things. One, conflict does not necessarily need to happen during storming stage only. It will happen during storming stage, but it can happen during performing stage as well, where some differences and complexity and emergency and crisis happen. So it can happen at any stage, but obviously the biggest one you're talking about storming. Storming, there is no fixed time, and I don't think we should be fixated by how long is each stage of the 5 stages. What is important is, as a leader, to recognize there are issues that have not been dealt with and they have to be dealt with. So you can move into the norming stage. Make sure everybody is heard, everybody has discussed their views, give them the platform, but then move on with the decision. Move on and force the norming stage if you have to, because you cannot keep discussing the same issue over and over and over again. And tell them, are you on the bus? If you don't want to, okay, I mean, I think somebody said, about the fittest will survive. I would not say the fittest, but at least those who are willing to move on with commitment after they have viewed their, raised their views and discussed it and are willing to commit. And those who are not willing to commit, get them off the bus. But obviously, it should not be too long, but don't make artificial timeline that maybe before all the issues are addressed, you try to move on to the norming stage. Okay, Mustafa Adam, Bismillah.
There are sometimes there are some issues that arise. That is, for example, when you say, for example, we need volunteers in such and such work for serving the community, nobody comes. Everybody is quiet, or most of the people are quiet. But then, when some people take the task and try their best, then the same people who have been quiet to come and the volunteering work, then you see them coming and criticizing, and without giving any directions or ideas always involve in lengthy talks and discussions, which always pulls the people who want to do their best back. So how do we deal with such people, or if we have such situations, how do we tackle this?
Okay, good point. We're talking about a lot of human behaviors. Okay, Dr. Mohammed Idris, you have any suggestions? You raise your hand, or is something else?
No, just I wanted to comment on what you said, and I like what you said about when you ask Brother Abdul Qadir, what options do you have? Because sometimes what happens is in teams, and again, a team could mean a lot of things. Could be a team in a department, and could be a team of the the board itself is considered a team, and the government cabinet could be a team. So the team means in a large scale. So the context here really play a main role in deciding what option to take. And I think one of the things that I think could help in minimizing having the wrong person in the wrong position is to put a standard and policies and procedures and standards for for election, for who's supposed to be there, what are the qualifications, because that minimize the person, the personality versus the character or the standards. That's if it is put in advance, it could help in minimizing.
Okay, Barakallah. Yes, definitely. Jazakallah khairan. Going back to the question that asked, I think it was Tosin or Mustafa, in terms of if you volunteer, if you ask for volunteers, nobody does it, and then when you start doing it, everybody starts interfering and criticizing. What a normal human being behavior. I think first of all, you need to understand the team dynamics. You need to understand the individuals, and you need to know whether they really want to volunteer. Maybe they like the task, but they don't want to stick their neck out. First, you can say that, okay, I will volunteer. Who wants to help me? Okay. And if you think there are individuals who always criticize, go and ask them before you do the work. What do you think of this? How should we do it? When they feel they get involved, even if they don't say anything, they will interfere less, because now you have sought their views, you have sought their ideas. So you really have to look at every individual, where they come from, what is their interest, and how much, especially if you have past experience with them, and deal with them that way. It doesn't have to be in the group meeting. It could be after the meeting. You just go and speak to say, so and so on. I know I volunteered for this, but what do you think I should do? And what other ideas or support are you willing to give? Do you want to work with me? What feedback do you have? I plan to do this. That way they feel now they're important, and you have thought their views, and then they will be less critical and maybe less intrusive in what you're doing. So we have a question from Muba, and it says, my question is regarding team formation. Which one do you prefer from the following? 1, a group of people who have a common background and similar mindset, or 2, collecting other people with different backgrounds and you are not sure if they would fit as a team. What are the pros and cons of each? I think we talked about groupthink earlier on. Muba, I'm not sure if you joined us after we did the first session, but there are pros and cons for each of them. When you bring in people who have a common background, have the same mindset, you have less conflict. They can get on to do the job very quickly. But then the danger is that they will not always seek alternative views, alternative ideas, and they can be sort of forced to accept the norm and to create the artificial harmony and cohesion. They do not critically challenge each other. So that is the issue. Even though there are benefits, they will work together. There will be a bit of harmony, less conflict, but that does not mean they will perform best. On the other hand, if you actually bring in randomly people from all over the place and put them together, it might be a recipe for disaster, because you need some level of harmony. Okay, we don't want a conflict or storming all the time. And making them perform might be a difficult stage. Even getting them from storming to norming stage might be a very difficult stage. So you have to be careful that you have a mixture of both. Some people that might know each other and others might not, but they have the relevant expertise. And especially with two, if you're going to bring in a lot of people from diverse background, then you have to have all strong leadership skills to manage the team, because it would be a nightmare to manage them during the storming session. But once they go to norming, then it will be okay. Good. Anyone else? Okay, if we don't have any further things, I want you to reflect on the following, okay? Look at the slides. Individually, reflect on the three aspects of this program: managing oneself, managing individuals, and managing teams. Reflect your management style in the past and develop things that you will do differently as a result of the sessions. And if you are willing, present it to the plenary. If you want to say, look, I will do this differently, I will reflect on this, happy. But at least write it down for yourself. You don't have to tell us. But reflect on what we did yesterday, managing individuals and oneself, and today managing teams. And what is that you will do differently to adapt your management style as a result of your learning. I'll give you a couple of more minutes to write down whatever you want, or if you want to share anything, and then it will be for Abdul Qadir to take over, inshallah. Okay, question from Abdurrahman Idris Noor. Is it possible the management team from the same qualifications? And then Abdul Rauf, my style mostly had been to be role model. Alhamdulillah. Okay, same qualifications. Will be a disaster. All doctors, all engineers, all accountants, I think will be a disaster. They only know one way of thinking because that's how they've been trained, whether they are doctors or engineers, accountants, HR, programs people, lawyers. They have been trained in one way of doing things. Okay, so I don't think you want that. Tosin, Bismillah.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. Reflecting on the managing a team, I just want to share this. I want to share some of the learning I have gained from this program. I know yesterday you were able to coach us that there is a difference between assigning responsibility and assigning a task. And then one of the things I've been doing in the past, which is also a feedback from my team, is that I hold on to a lot of things without dedicating responsibility to them. So when you mentioned this yesterday, I have a thought about it, and I've seen this as a way or as an area I need to improve myself. So since I learned this yesterday, I've been looking for a way and to improve myself to see how I can start dedicating responsibility and not a task. Because I feel, okay, I can do it better, or they can't do it the way I would do it, professionalism and the rest. But when you mentioned this yesterday, I see it as a weakness on my part, and to grow as a leader, I also need to know how to delegate responsibility. So this is a reflection on my own part of managing a team. I've seen my weakness, and I've been trying on how to improve on this and to ensure that the team is well structured and there can be more feedback. Thank you very much.
MashaAllah, brilliant, very good feedback. Jazakallah khairan. Obviously, Hamdani.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much for the enlightenment. I actually found this concept of being at the ideal conflict point very useful, and I want to say it used to be me before. It has actually shed a light of how to strike the balance. And the second aspect is a curiosity. I had you mention that you are coming back to a particular point. I don't know whether it's reserved for tomorrow's presentation, but I'm just curious of it. I once heard about it, the radical candor you mentioned. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, mashallah. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have from Mustafa, Adam, and Dr. Khiyar saying diversity is very important in a team. We don't want people of the same qualifications. Excellent. Abdul Rauf is saying that after the session to make myself and our mission very clear. Mashallah, good. Anyone else wants to come? If not, just consider these next steps. Write down whatever you need to do. You don't have to share it if you don't want to. Okay, and Jazakumullah khairan, and I'm going to stop sharing. I will stop now, and thank you very much. Okay, all of you. Thank you for your engagement, and Abdul Qadir, you take over, and we listen to any other discussions we have or questions and answers.
Yeah. Probably if you have the same type of people in the team, and you are looking for critical eyes, probably within the community will identify some people who are critical all the time. Maybe it was having discussion with them and get the ideas, the other points of views. This might, because in the community work, sometimes your time that you volunteer is limited and you want to achieve. So if I have 3 hours a week, I want to go and do a job. But if you are feeling that maybe it's going to waste your time in order to see the critical eye within the team, maybe in that way you could get the other points of view and what other people say. Also, you could have advisor group, people you could they have different skills. Maybe you could chat with them, because I'm saying that because we are in the voluntary sector. So always we depend on people dedicating their expertise and their time for a good cause. So this is maybe something that I want to share with the rest. I don't know if you have any comments on this one also.
No, I like it. Very good. No, very good. Yeah.
Dr. Khiyar?
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
One of the main problems with this non-profit is that they have a shortage of fund. So when you have shortage of fund, you cannot do the proper personality analysis to see who is good at what and who fits in where in the team or in the administration. Unlike the businesses, they have enough fund to do the required analysis, and they can invest more on their people to create more effective teams. But here for us in the non-profit, I think it's costly to do that. The little resource we have from donations, we need to spend it in the community, whether it's in education, healthcare, or supplying food, whatever it is. So here we have this problem. Even now, this training is all our speakers, Jazakumullah khair, they are volunteers, they are not paid. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them. And please make dua for them. And I take this opportunity to ask you all, we are benefiting from their expertise for free. And it's rare to get people with such qualification to provide you such service for free. So this is the difference between businesses and non-profit. That non-profit, they don't have enough fund to do the required research. Even all this research now, what we have been talking about team, they were made in business setup. It is difficult now to apply them in non-profit. Everyone will have his own way of applying them. It's because they were made for businesses. But that doesn't mean we cannot learn from them. We can learn from them, but we have to be wise enough as to see how to apply them in a non-profit sector. Because in the non-profit sector, most of the people are volunteers. You cannot force on them certain things. You have to accept the status quo. Thank you very much, Dr. Naser. Very interesting lecture today.
You're welcome. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, definitely. I think, Dr. Khiar, I know most of these models and frameworks are from the business world, but human beings are human, okay? And our behavior doesn't change much. It's just our mindset when we are in voluntary sector, we just try to behave differently sometimes. But we can use, and some of this research, they do actually combine both voluntary sector and business sector. But I know what you're saying about how do you do it with volunteers when you're not paying them? How much can you really do about disciplining them and following these models? It is a challenge, I agree with you.
Just for to give me an idea, the people that we have here, do we have people working maybe in community cohesion project, especially in Africa? Because I know that there are conflicts between tribes, maybe religion. So how do we have, first of all, people within this set? Also, what difference could make this programming for them? Also, do we have people from maybe relief organizations? So their focus is when there are people hungry, just to feed them, this kind of activities, or if there are any disaster arise in places, they look at them. Because we have different type of people, and ideally I would like to kind of get a knowledge, how could they handle the challenge that they have, also how this training could benefit them within their environment. Yeah, Shahabuddin. Shahabuddin, you could speak.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Alhamdulillah, it has been very interesting. I was following it very thoroughly from the very beginning. It was very nice, but I have some questions on regarding, sometimes we have seen some of the theories and models of just managing that can be used for managing teams as a whole. But sometimes now currently, because of we are just in the digital age, there are virtual teams as well.
Yeah.
So is there anything that differs, because I think that the virtual teams needs a little bit strong leadership skills. So can we apply all these theories and models we have seen so far to lead and manage effectively the virtual teams, or we have to see the unique features of virtual teams so that we can add something on what we have learned so far?
I think it's very good point. I would say virtual teams have some unique qualities or characteristics. So I would consider, when I'm applying those models, to look at the uniqueness of virtual teams and adapt it accordingly. I wouldn't just sort of do it. Yeah, there are areas you might want to adapt them. There will be certain areas they will work fine, but other areas you need to adapt them. And maybe something in the future we can work on how to manage virtual teams. That would be a completely separate topic. Yeah, Shahabuddin, you were speaking already, yeah? Okay.
Yes.
All right, okay, from there.
Of course, we sent you a feedback form. If we are all in the WhatsApp group, then you will find a simple questionnaires. All what you need is open it, just click the points that you agree or you disagree, and there's a chance for you to make comments in anything that you see. It's very simple. It wouldn't take any long time. So we urge you and we ask you kindly to give your feedback on the WhatsApp group. Also, probably at the end, we would like to see people from different backgrounds, as I said, and different nationalities, and the organizations are based in different countries. It will be very useful to us when we send a questionnaire, final questionnaire maybe, which includes your information, where you are, what kind of organization that you work for, that will enable us to improve ourselves, and maybe other people could benefit from that. As education first, mainly what we try to do is to make information available, training available, so that those people in certain areas could benefit from it. And we as education first, we could convey this information. So this is the points that I would like to make. If you are not on the WhatsApp group, then feel free to tell me that so that we could send you the number, or actually, Brother Mujahid, if you could write the number, those who don't have it, so that they could maybe take it and request to join the group. If you have any further comments, Brother Nasruddin or Brother Mujahid or Dr. Khiyar, just I would like to mention Ustaz Salah, one of the organizer. Unfortunately, his cousin passed away this morning. That's why he didn't join us. I would like to take this opportunity to make dua for him and her family. May Allah grant her Jannah, and may Allah make it easy for Brother Salah and the family of the sister who passed away today. May Allah forgive her and grant her Jannat al-Firdaus. Now it's down to you if you have any comments before we conclude. We'll finish in 5 minutes time.
Yeah, Abdul Qadir, there is a question from Sister Fatuma saying,
okay.
How do we engage volunteers to their best interest? Usually everything is give and take. I think that's a separate topic. We can probably think about it in the future. Volunteers are different than managing teams, but there are some aspects that will be the same. But there will be other aspects that volunteer management is a different one. So maybe they can,
yeah, I think we'll cover it, inshallah, also.
Okay.
Or at least share some ideas on that point. You have the telephone number to join the group in order to receive our announcements. Education first, also we have what do you call a YouTube channel where we have diverse lectures and activities. Also, we have a Facebook. If are you familiar? Did you visit our Facebook?
Not before, but inshallah I'll check it personally.
Perfect, perfect. Always your feedback will be valuable in order for us to deliver our service in the best way possible.
Inshallah. Let me say something, please.
Yeah, you have a chance to say that.
Yeah, Jazakumullah khairan. This is the best chance, we come to know each other as well, and also the network has to last, inshallah, a long time. So I think in Ethiopia, for example, we have just trainers, but we don't have such experienced trainers, especially from Muslim community. We need to have just a network when we need, for example, training here in Ethiopia. It might be face to face, or it might be just online. So we need to access some of the famous trainers globally around the world. So if you can help us with that as well, we need, here we do the leadership training, for example. The leadership training it is very comprehensive, it is very holistic. It starts from self-leadership, and then family-based leadership, team leadership, organizational leadership, community leadership, and public leadership as well, global leadership. It is very vast. And also we need to have just entrepreneurship leadership as well, entrepreneurship development, and also in the media and activism. We are not just influencing, even if we are just more than 50% of the population in Ethiopia. We are just trying to create active, influential, and exemplary Muslim citizens here in Ethiopia. So we need to have such kind of trainers, such kind of very influential and well experienced trainers. So maybe, inshallah, education first may serve us just as a bridge to connect us between those individuals and also Impact Makers Foundation here in Ethiopia. And also Dr. Naser, I need to have a contact with him as well, so that I can discuss with him. As I have seen, these 2 days he has a well established experiences regarding this area. So we need to have just a contact so that we can benefit from each other, inshallah.
In terms of our Facebook, what we try to do is to make sure that people that they receive, because sometimes the email that we send, it might go to their junk mail and they don't know that, or maybe for some reason it didn't reach them on WhatsApp. Therefore, on Facebook, we make announcement that a link has been sent to the group. That's with regard to this training. The other materials available there, it's covering different topics and different training and different lectures. Also, the materials for this course will be sent to you by email, also on WhatsApp group which we have. So that's the way that we are going to share with you the materials which is specifically related to this training. Brother Mustafa Adam.
Yes, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I would like to thank you all for this very wonderful sessions, and we have benefited a lot. I just want to ask if you have already, or if you are planning sessions in Arabic language.
We'll take this on board, inshallah, and you will see what we could do in the coming future.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Also, our training, because we work also from different groups, even from different faith. So we know what we want to do is always, there is sometimes some element of cooperation, even from people, they are from different countries or different tribe or different faith. Our intention is to provide the information, because always we know that there are people try to bridge the gaps between the communities. If our materials was useful for them to achieve their goal, this is a success for us as well. So even in this training, we had maybe people from different faiths, because we didn't go in details of the faiths, but we are open, and as we know, and as we are taught as Muslims, that we could extend and cooperate and be useful to our communities and societies. So this is a message that I wanted to share with you. I think with this, we will conclude. May Allah bless you all for your attending the course. Also, may Allah bless our trainers who have dedicated their time and expertise. I cannot say thank you enough, and I hope everyone will reflect on what we have learned, and inshallah we'll start sharing the materials that we have learned so far, we have covered so far, and reflect on it and implement it. And that's what we want, learn and progress. Dr. Khiyar or Brother Mujahid, if you have any final comments. Otherwise, we leave it here.
No, no, thank you so much. No,
thank you so much. Okay.
Barakallah.
We highly appreciate.
Thank you.
Alaikum salam.
Jazakumullah khair, barakallah feekum, and thank you everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi.